Was she a poisoner and mastermind of slaughter? Or a ruler trying to prevent France from tearing itself apart? Catherine de Medici was often judged harshly and called a serpent before anyone truly tried to know her. Rumours and pamphlets painted her as the foreign queen in the shadows, the widow in black linked to France's troubles. But behind these stories was a woman shaped by survival, someone who learned early that power brings little comfort unless you can bear its price. Catherine de Medici was born in Florence in 1519 to a wealthy and influential family, but she became an orphan within weeks. Her parents died before she could know them, and men decided her future focused on alliances and advantage. Even as a baby, Catherine was seen more as a political asset than a child, a Medici heiress whose guardianship was part of larger power struggles. Ambassadors discussed her potential to strengthen ties with other courts, and her cradle became a place for negotiation as Florence and France considered an alliance. She grew up during unrest, her family lost power, and her safety was never certain. She was sheltered in convents while others debated her worth. Catherine learned to observe before speaking, to be careful with every gesture, and to realize that security could disappear at any time. These habits, born out of necessity, were later mistaken for cold calculation. When her cousin became Pope Clement VII, her fortunes shifted. She was sent to France to marry Henry, a prince destined for the throne, and at 14 she entered a court glittering with ceremony, yet thick with suspicion. In the great hall, banners glimmered above tables set for royal feasts, the scent of unfamiliar perfumes in the air, a world attuned to every precise ritual, every word pronounced just so. She was Italian in a kingdom that prized its own traditions, and her accent alone marked her as an outsider. At her first banquet, when she rose to offer a toast of gratitude, her vowels caught and twisted the court's cherished phrases. The words sounded strange, and the laughter that followed was sharp and quick, the courtiers exchanging knowing glances. The marriage bound two great houses, but affection lay elsewhere. Henry's devotion belonged to Diane de Poitiers, whose influence at court was unmistakable, and Catherine endured years in which she seemed almost invisible. Even more troubling, France held tightly to the Salic law, forbidding inheritance through women and placing enormous pressure on queens to produce male heirs. In this world, a childless wife risked far more than loneliness. The future of the throne itself could be placed in question. Not having children was a serious problem for Catherine. At court, fertility was about more than family. It was about political survival. People gossiped, and she faced the real risk of being replaced. But things changed as Catherine had more children, eventually becoming the mother of 10. This secured her place in France's future. Through her sons, she found both security and purpose, focusing on their education and the dynasty's survival. In 1559, celebration filled the air as France rejoiced in peace after years of conflict. During festivities, King Henry II entered a tournament, and in an instant of terrible misfortune, a lance shattered, sending a splinter through his eye. The court watched as hope faded over days of agony. When he died, Catherine stepped into a new and unforgiving role. Clad in mourning black, she faced a kingdom unsettled by religious tension and political rivalry, and her sons, still young, would depend upon her strength. France was split between Catholics and Protestants, and mistrust often led to violence. As regent for her son Charles IX, Catherine tried to bring stability to a country on the edge of chaos. She held meetings, made new laws, and tried to encourage peaceful coexistence. In one royal proclamation, she said, Peace must be preserved above all, for it is not religion that ruins kingdoms, but civil discord. Some people were frustrated by her refusal to choose sides, but she knew that forcing a solution in matters of faith could lead to endless war. She travelled through the kingdom with the young king, presenting the image of monarchy to cities weary of uncertainty, hoping that her presence might inspire loyalty where authority alone could not. Yet, wherever she went, rumours followed. Stories circulated of secret plots, of hidden motives, of a queen who wielded influence through unseen means. The image of Catherine as a master of intrigue grew, fed by fear and by the tendency to distrust a powerful woman who spoke with a foreign voice. These suspicions clung to her in ways rarely endured by her male peers, echoing broader anxieties about women and power. In an age when whispers of witchcraft could easily attach themselves to those who defied conventional roles, the spread of rumour around Catherine was sharpened not just by politics, but by the gendered fears of her era. Catherine's efforts to bring peace led to a marriage meant to unite the country. In 1572, her daughter Marguerite married Henry of Navarre, a Protestant prince, and nobles from all over France came to Paris. For a brief time, it seemed peace was possible. The city was full of celebrations, but there was also tension beneath the surface. Then, a gunshot wounded Admiral Coligny, a key Protestant leader, and the uneasy calm quickly disappeared. Suspicion spread, and decisions were made in a climate of fear. In the days that followed, violence broke out in what became known as the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. Killings that started as targeted attacks turned into widespread bloodshed, and news of the tragedy spread across Europe. Catherine's role became the subject of heated debate, and her name was forever linked to the event. Some historians, like Emmanuel Leroy-Ladurie, say she was the cold strategist behind the massacre, directing events from behind the scenes. Others, such as R.J. Necht, believe she was a queen caught in the tide of forces beyond her grasp, reacting to events she could barely influence. These different views show how complex her legacy is and highlight the ongoing debate about her responsibility. What is clear is that this event changed how she would be remembered for generations. Even with accusations against her, Catherine kept working. She advised her sons, negotiated with different groups, and tried to keep France stable after so much conflict. She understood that impressive buildings and grand festivals could help persuade people. When unrest threatened Paris, she organized lavish court festivals, turning the Louvre's courtyards into scenes of unity and celebration. At the Feast of St. Michael, for example, she arranged fireworks and elaborate performances, lighting up the night to show royal wealth and the hope for peace. The new Tuileries Palace was the setting for many of these events. Its design was meant to show order and renewal in a divided city. These displays were more than just entertainment. They helped reinforce the monarchy's stability when words were not enough. Through these events and building projects, Catherine created an image of a strong monarchy that inspired loyalty, even as tensions continued. The years brought personal loss as well as political strain. One son after another died, and the question of succession intensified divisions. The Catholic League rose as a formidable force, challenging royal authority and deepening the crisis. Catherine, aging yet determined, remained engaged in negotiation, striving to prevent further fragmentation. In 1588, Paris erupted during the Day of the Barricades, forcing the royal court to flee the city that had once been its centre of power. Years before, Catherine had walked these same streets in grand processions, showing royal authority and trying to inspire unity. Now, instead of triumph, her departure marked a retreat, and showed how fragile the crown had become. Later that year, the assassination of the Duke of Guise shocked the country and increased the sense of crisis. Catherine died in January 1589, after spending decades dealing with turmoil. After her death, Catherine's legend became even darker. Stories of poison, manipulation, and secret plots spread widely, showing both political hostility and a lasting fascination with powerful women who break the mold. But beneath these myths was a life marked by resilience, a woman who tried to guide her family and her country through one of Europe's most difficult times. Catherine de Medici remains a figure of paradox, neither easily condemned nor simply absolved. She governed in a time when every choice carried consequences beyond prediction, when leadership meant balancing competing dangers rather than choosing clear paths. Her story is inseparable from the wars and fears of her age, and from the enduring question of how history remembers those who stand at the center of upheaval. In the uncertainties of the 21st century, when leaders are again called to make swift and difficult decisions in moments of crisis, Catherine's legacy feels freshly relevant. Can anyone, in the face of divided loyalties and unknown outcomes, truly emerge unscathed from the demands of power? What will future generations make of our own leaders, forced to navigate the shifting landscapes of trust, fear, and necessity? What lasts most may not be the accusations or the defenses, but the image of a queen facing uncertainty and searching for stability when certainty was out of reach. Picture Catherine in the quiet palace, holding a candle as she walks through shadowy halls. Her steps follow the changing patterns of power and doubt, her presence moving between light and darkness, always moving forward into a future no one can fully see.